speak Japanese, my friend. I see your Japanese comment. I don't speak Japanese. Okay. Hello, everybody. Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, everybody. How's it going? Hope you're doing very, very well on this fine. What day of the week is it today? It's Tuesday, of course. Tuesday Talks. This is our weekly Tuesday Talks live stream. So if you're new to these videos, it's pretty straightforward. Every single week, I go live on Instagram and then Facebook, YouTube, and I talk about a different language learning topic. The topic is voted in on the Language Learning Nerds Facebook group. Feel free to go into Facebook and search that. Again, search the Language Learning Nerds. Search that up and you'll find the group. And we put a survey. People vote on the topic that they'd like to see me talk about. And based on what gets the most number of votes, I make a video on that topic. So today's topic is actually twofold. We have two topics today because there were two things in the survey that got a lot of votes, and one of them is a pretty quick answer. So I thought we can do a bit of a 2-in-1 today. So the first topic that we'll talk about is how much you should be studying every day, or really how much you should be studying period in your target language. So I think there's a few ways to view this. I think minimally, there's a few ways you can view this when you're looking at learning another language. I think on a bare minimum, I think if you're doing like 1 or 2 hours a week, that's a bare minimum. So for example, I have a student who takes some French classes and she literally comes to her weekly class. We have 1 hour of class a week and she doesn't really do any homework. Sometimes she'll do a little bit, but generally she doesn't. And that's been kind of what she does. She comes to class once a week, she attends, and that's been the one thing I've told her, hey, let's be consistent with that and let's make sure you're doing that. Because beforehand, she used to try and do homework, but her work life was really busy and she wouldn't always get around to doing it. Then she felt guilty about it. She thought she was letting herself down, letting me down. She felt really bad, which therefore made her skip class and not want to come to class. And it was just a negative downward spiral. So I told her, hey, just come to class. I'm not going to give you homework. You don't have to do homework, but I need you to come to class. If you come to class every week, you're going to improve. And sure enough, she improves, right? Even though it's only 1 hour a week, she does slowly but surely improve with that 1 hour of consistent study, consistent practice a week. So yeah, that's the most important thing. It's less about how much you're doing, and it's more about, can you consistently make sure that you're putting in time? I think that's what's the most important. Now, 1 hour a week, to be honest with you, is not ideal. That's not the ideal amount that you should be putting in, and your progress will be slow. I think what's better is if you could carve out time every day. I think that's much better. Even if you can carve out 15 to 20 minutes a day, that's going to be a heck of a lot better than 1 hour a week. That's going to be way better. I'll give you a good example, right? Myself, I've been trying to become more fit lately. I've been trying to be a lot more fit and be in better physical shape. And so it's for the past, I would say few months, actually more than that, really. I would say for the past couple of years, I've been reasonably consistent with doing some form of physical activity. I have kind of gone on and off from time to time, but generally I've been reasonably consistent doing some form of physical activity, and that's been good for me. That's been good. Now, I'm not jacked, I'm not super strong, and I'm not in amazing shape, but listen, I've done a little bit. I've tried to do stuff every day. Sometimes I kind of miss and I can't do it every day, and I have a bad 2 months, but generally I've been pretty good, and I'm better than I used to be. And so I think that can really help people. And for the majority of language learners, I think if you're able to carve out some amount of time every day of the week, that's going to be really good for you, very beneficial, and you are going to improve at a very, very consistent pace. I think so. Now, there's a small percentage of language learners that I think it's got to go a little bit beyond that. It has to be beyond just putting in your X amount of time per day. I think there are certain people where that's going to be the case. I'm one of those people because I have very ambitious goals with my language learning. I I want to speak 8 different languages minimally in my lifetime, and I'd like to speak them at a very fluent level, at a very, very fluent level. And so in my world, what that needs to look like is quite different. Language learning needs to almost become like a religion. It almost needs to become something that is consistently on my mind and consistently something I'm working on. It doesn't mean that I'm always at every moment of the day studying a language. What it does mean, though, is that foreign language acquisition permeates every fiber of my life. So all the music I listen to tends to be in a variety of languages. I speak all my languages every day. I teach languages. I organize language exchanges. My business is a language teaching business. I think about language learning. It permeates my life. And even though I do other things too, I spend time with friends, I have family, I watch TV, and I do other things, but you can consistently see in my lifestyle how language learning is there. And that ultimately ends up being the fastest way to improve. If you're able to do that, that's the fastest way to improve. And so ultimately, if you're able to get to the point, if you're able to build up to the point where you're not viewing language learning as, I need to practice my language every day or every week or every XYZ, whatever consistency you decide in your mind, if you can get to a point where you realize, oh, and you get out of that mentality, and instead you switch to the mentality of, okay, language is now part of my lifestyle. What does that look like? That is going to be the fastest and the most effective way for the majority, if not all of you, to really start to see some progress in your target languages or target language. I'll give you a good analogy. I'm someone who recently I've realized that if you want to be successful in learning another language, a very effective strategy is to think about how you are successful in a different skill that you've already gotten pretty good at. So maybe you're really good at tennis, right? Maybe you're really good at tennis and you followed a certain procedure or a certain process to become good at tennis. I think thinking about that process and implementing the same behaviors and attitudes and action steps towards languages, I think that is a very good idea. So for instance, I'm doing it in reverse. I'm really good at learning languages and I'm not as good at other things in my life. So I've been looking at the strategies that work for me in languages and applying it to other things. So for instance, with my fitness, right? I mentioned fitness recently. It occurred to me recently that, I'm good at languages because it's a part of my lifestyle. So logically speaking, if I want to really start to get in better shape in terms of my physical fitness needs to become a part of my lifestyle. So how can I make fitness permeate my life versus what I have been doing, which is viewing it as I need to practice, I need to do my fitness for this much time a day minimally, which I've been pretty good at. And I have seen some results. But if I want to see more results, I have to think about how can I make it permeate my life? So I've been brainstorming with different ways to do that. One of the things I've thought about, and one of the things that I have been, one of the things that I'm like 90% there and pulling the trigger on it and starting it, is to create a language map, a fitness map in my house. A fitness map basically means, and you can do this with language too, by the way. What that means is certain actions have a cost in your house. If you want to open your fridge, before I open the fridge, I have to do 10 push-ups. So every time I open the fridge, I have to do 10 push-ups. Before I sit down to work, I often get up out of this office and I go in other parts of the house and I come back. Before I sit down, I have to stretch for 45 seconds. Before I do this, before I go into the bed, I have to, do 10 sit-ups. Before I brush, and you make rules, right? So before you do certain activities, by the way, I see people's questions in the chat. I will answer them. Before I do certain activities, I have a fitness cost. I have something that I have to do with my body before I'm allowed to do before I'm allowed to do that task. So that's the way that it starts to permeate my life. And I think I'll see a lot more results that way than what I'm doing right now, which is making sure on a daily basis that I'm doing some form of physical exercise. So I think that kind of wraps up that topic of how much should you study every day. Now let's go to the second question, the second topic of today, which is, can you learn or should you learn 2 languages at once? And this one is not a very long topic. We can knock this one out of the park pretty quickly. So can you learn 2 languages at once? Absolutely. You absolutely can learn 2 languages at once. Just understand that it's probably going to take more time. It's probably going to take more organization. You likely are going to progress slower in each language, likely. But absolutely, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with learning multiple languages at the same time. By all means, go for it. By all means, go for it. Now, the question becomes, should you do it? And I'm not neither here nor there, meaning I don't think it's a good or bad idea. It's kind of like if you ask me, hey, Azren, should I stretch at 12 o'clock in the day or should I stretch at 3 o'clock in the day? I'd be like, I don't really know. 12 o'clock or 3 o'clock, I don't really see a big difference. Now, for some people, stretching at 12 o'clock or 3 o'clock will make a difference because maybe at 3 o'clock, you're not at work, but at 12 o'clock, you are at work. So all of a sudden, stretching at 12 o'clock is not practical for you, but on a theoretical level, there's nothing wrong with stretching at 3 o'clock or 12 o'clock. So I think with learning multiple languages at the same time, I view it very similarly. I don't think on a surface level, there's necessarily a problem with it. I don't think you should or shouldn't learn multiple languages at the same time. I don't think so. I think it's just fine to do that. But on an individual level, there's going to be a lot of things there's going to be differences on whether or not you should do that. Right? Does that make sense? On an individual level, there will be. So for instance, maybe you speak Spanish as your first language, and you would like to learn Portuguese and French. I might say, or maybe say Portuguese and Italian or something. And I go, oh, you speak Spanish as your first language. You live in like Peru, so you're close to Brazil. You've been to Brazil. Okay, you'll pick up Portuguese really quick, and you want to go learn Italian. Okay, yeah, I don't see a bit like, yeah, definitely. I can really, like, it's realistic for you to try and learn 2 at the same time. Versus someone else who's brand new to language learning, has never tried to learn a language, and they decide, I'm going to go learn Russian and Japanese, and I want to learn both at the same time. You know, now I might be more hesitant, and I might say, I don't know about that. I'm not sure how that's going to work out. Have you thought about how much time you're going to dedicate to both? You know what I mean? Then there might be a little bit more involved there, potentially. But then again, maybe there isn't, because maybe the person's super organized and they can figure that out, and that's not a problem for them. So I think it's super individual. I don't think there's a right or a wrong answer with should you / can you learn multiple languages at the same time. I think my opinion is maybe not the most popular opinion. I've heard people that have stronger opinions on the topic, but for me, I think this one is very individual, and it's not something I can give blanket advice on. Okay, let's answer some questions. I've seen some questions in the chat, so let me just open up a couple chats here. So if you have other questions or topics you'd like to see me talk about, then by all means type them into the chat right now, and I'll answer them. So let's go on YouTube to start, because we have the biggest number of questions there. So we have, I don't know what your name is. It's written in Russian. I can't read Russian. ¿Cuánto tiempo tú aprendí inglés? So should be hace cuánto tiempo que aprendes inglés? That's how it should be. ¿Hace cuánto tiempo que aprendes inglés? That's how that question should be. I mean, basically in English, it translates to how long have you been learning English? English is basically my strongest language. I've born and raised in Canada, and I've grown up with it. Do you want to learn another language? Maybe German. Yeah, German is it's not really on my list. I have a list of languages I would like to learn, but I've thought about German because of the part-time work that I've been doing with Easy Languages, Easy Languages project. So I have thought about possibly learning some German because it's practical, because everyone there most of them speak German. The owner lives in Germany, so there's some practicality there. So I have thought about it. But I do have other languages I want to learn, yes. How many films do you watch per week, and do you watch movies in your free time? Yeah, I'm a big movie person. I like watching movies. Right, with COVID right now, I don't go to the theaters very often, but I do. I do enjoy watching movies quite a bit. I like them a lot. Let's see here. Okay, so nothing else on YouTube right now. Let me hop over to Facebook. So Facebook has got how to speak better. Good question. So how do you speak better? I would say a combination of consistent. Consistent study and practice of the language for a number of years. There we go. You want to get better at speaking? Practice daily, regularly, and do it for years, and you will start to improve. Okay. How many languages do you speak? I speak French, English, Gujarati, Mandarin, Spanish. Yep, that is correct. Your list, James, your list is correct. I saw one in Instagram. I wanted to scroll up. Oh, what languages do you speak? Already answered that. Perfect. Good. Let's scroll up some more. I think there was one more on Instagram that I missed. Did I miss a question on Instagram? No, is this the one? Is this the one on Instagram? Cool. Let's see what else we have here. How can I write better in English? The same way that you would improve your speaking, you would need to practice writing regularly. I would start there. I would write journals every day about different topics. And then I would, after that, after you have started to write every day in English and you're writing journals, I think it's important to have someone correct your writing and for you to get feedback on your writing. And that's the only way to improve your writing, even in your mother tongue. So in English, for me, I used to be a poor writer, a very poor writer. I was really bad. The only way I got better was it took years, actually, really years before finally I felt more comfortable. Now, I was like, yeah, it probably was years actually of good work in English actually to become good at writing in English. Almost it feels like every day, but it was probably 3 times a week. I used to write. My mom at the time was like a kid. I was younger. I was a kid at the time and teenager. My mom would read it and she'd be like, Azren, you can't say this. You misspelled this. You misspelled that. You have to put a comma here. What's wrong with this sentence? Azren, look at it. You tell me what's wrong. Multiple times a week, correcting, writing, getting it corrected, writing again, getting it corrected, learning from your mistakes, getting feedback. For me, it was more in my child to teenage years. It probably went from what do you think here? So you're probably 9. So age of 9 all the way until 13, 14. From the age of 9 to 13 or 14, that was a regular thing I had to do. And that's the only way I got good at writing. That's just it, right? Adults, it'll be the same thing. Adults might learn a little bit quicker. Adults do tend to learn faster than kids do, especially with something like writing. But that is the only real way to do it. So, how do you learn a language passively? You don't. What tips can you give about, let me expand. How do you learn a language passively? Yeah, you don't learn a language passively. It's just not how it works. I mean, you can do some passive learning, listening to music and, certain immersion type things. You can listen to podcasts. There's certain things you can do passively, but you won't learn a lot. In my experience, I don't think you're going to learn a language passively. I think it takes active work. So, what tips can you give about learning tenses? Yep, good question. So if you want to learn tenses in English or really any language, I think you should watch. No, I didn't make a video on it. I thought I did, but I made a video on a similar topic. So to improve tenses, first, I think it will help you to learn the theory behind the tense, learn the conjugations, and learn when to use that tense. Write them out, memorize them, make sure you understand it, do some practice exercises. That's how you start. Do your declension charts, start with that. That's not going to be enough, but it's how you start. After that, I will probably practice it in a written context. I would write on a daily basis, write certain journal entries about topics and incorporate the tenses that you're trying to get better at, and then have them corrected by someone and get feedback on why you were wrong on certain things. I would do that. And then I would do a very particular speaking exercise. I would take some private classes, and I would ask, and I would take private conversation classes, and I would ask the teacher to track and listen. And not everybody can do this. You might have to actually look for different teachers, because not every teacher can do it. I do it a lot personally. I've got a couple teachers that do it, that I've trained them on this, and we've talked about how to do this. Well, one or two, I think. A couple can do it pretty well. And what you do is you tell the teacher to track every verb you conjugate correctly and every verb you conjugate incorrectly as you're speaking and conversing about something. And at the end, you then recap the errors you made and recap the correct grammar, the correct verbs that you did. And you'll start to see, often there's patterns. Often you're making the same types of mistakes over and over. Often it's pretty rare for you to make like a whole bunch of different types of mistakes. That happens too, but usually there's one type of mistake you're making more often than not. Focus on that type of mistake and focus on fixing those big mistakes. I think as well, for improving your tenses, listening on a daily basis is important. I think that's really important, listening to different things and reading different things, because they'll pick up certain phrases and certain grammar points a little bit more passively and more by osmosis. That takes time, but it can happen as well. So there's a couple tips there. Do you think that Duolingo is the best app to learn languages, or do you know of other good apps? I'm not super knowledgeable about language learning apps. I'm not the most knowledgeable about that, to be honest. I'm not a big app person. I think apps are a great supplementary tool. It's a good additional tool, but I am not, based on the experience I have, I've not seen a lot of people who only use an app as their primary avenue of instruction and learning and are able to successfully learn a language by doing that. That's rare. That's pretty rare, and I haven't seen a lot of that. So I don't know a lot about apps. I wish I could say more, but I'm just not super knowledgeable about the topic. I see a question written in Russian, but I don't speak Russian, so let me Google Translate it, actually. Let's go to Google Translate. Russian to English. What is the question here? Hello, American soul. Where are you from? I am not from America. I am from Canada. I am from Canada. So I think I saw another Russian question too. Let me translate that question as well. Oh, okay. It's not a question, just some random comment. Okay, cool. All right, let's see here. Any tips on French pronunciation? Yep, I do have tips on French pronunciation. I just made, like a few days ago, a French pronunciation crash course. My biggest tip is to go watch that. It's on my YouTube. So go to my YouTube. It's like one video ago, I think, or maybe 2 videos ago. I made it, if you're watching this like well down the line, I made it on like October 1st, 2020, October 4th, October 3rd, something like that, 2020. Go watch that, follow those tips, listen to that, rewatch that. It's made in a way where you can kind of follow along and try and improve over time. That's a really big tip I can give you. Other tips I'd give you, this is pronunciation in general. Anybody who, if you go take 20 hours of your life and you learn the basics of phonetics and the International Phonetic Alphabet, that's going to save you a lot of time in the long run for your target language. Why? Not for everybody, but for a lot of people. I view language learning like I view music. A lot of people learn music by ear. They learn by ear, they listen, and they're able to kind of hear stuff and kind of imitate the sounds by singing or on their guitar or whatever it is. But a lot of people can't. And a lot of people, it really helps them to know how to read music. Well, the version of being able to read music in a language learning world basically means having a foundation in phonetics and the International Phonetic Alphabet. So therefore, instead of you trying to learn by ear how to pronounce something, you can literally read it and understand by what you're reading how to position your tongue, what to do with your vocal cords, and exactly what to do with your mouth to produce that particular sound. So that can really be helpful for you. I see the next question is also about pronunciation. Do you use the shadow method for practicing your pronunciation, or any tips about it? So yeah, I think also just pronunciation in general. So the shadowing technique, no, I don't personally use it in an active way. I don't put on a video and shadow along videos or podcasts. I don't do it like that. I do shadow informally in the sense that I'll hear how someone speaks and I'll notice something that they do and I'll start to kind of copy it on my own time, or I'll try and imitate it when I speak. That's something I'll do, but I don't do it in like a very formal setting, in a very formal way. I do think pronunciation takes time. It's out of all the language learning skills, I think pronunciation is one of the skills that takes one of the most time-consuming skills, I think, because it is not an intellectual skill. Pronunciation is a muscular skill. You're mastering the muscles in your mouth to pronounce things properly. And you have to place your tongue in the right place and do the exact, like if your tongue is 3 centimeters in the wrong place, all of a sudden your pronunciation is now off. All of a sudden your pronunciation is now off. It's wrong, right? So pronunciation is one of the things that takes one of the most amounts of time to actually improve, I find, because the muscular skill. It's like if I wanted to have really strong arms, there's only one thing I can do. I have to go to the gym. I have to lift weights. I have to do bench press. I have to do those kinds of things. And I have to do it every day regularly before the muscles get bigger and my muscles understand how to do it. Same with language learning. You have to keep working on pronunciation for a long time, every day, before you can really start to see some results. Listen, guys, I couldn't pronounce French R's for a long time. Most of my life, actually, most of my life when I spoke in French, I couldn't pronounce French R's. Now, granted, when I was younger, I didn't know I was saying them wrong. Nobody ever told me I was mispronouncing it, so I didn't know for a long time. But in order to pronounce a French and be able to do that, it took me a good 2 or 3 months, and probably more than that, actually. 2 or 3 months of daily practice until I got pretty good, and probably another year or 2 before I really mastered it. Because even after the first 3 months, I could do it pretty well, but I'd still miss. My mouth would still mispronounce it sometimes. Or certain words were really hard and I couldn't say them. Spanish R is very similar. Spanish R's I remember more vividly. It was like years. It was even harder than the French R for me. I couldn't go. I couldn't do it. I just couldn't. I practiced for years before finally my tongue can do it without. Now I can do it really easily. I couldn't do it, man. It was so hard. And yeah, it took years before I mastered it. Maybe 1 or 2 years before I had it okay, but it wasn't perfect. And then years of 3, 4, 5 years before I could really do it perfectly. So Anki, yes, I'm a fan of Anki. Why not? Sure, I like it. Let's see here. Do you give private classes? Yes, I do give private classes. You can visit the following link. There we go. Azren, will that work? I don't know if that worked or not. Basically, it's azrenthelanguagenerd.com/classes. You can read about private classes there. Or even easier, what you can even do if you just want to book some time with me just to chat about classes and get some questions answered, just book this link here. Let's give you this one here. Just go to that link I just put in the chat, calendly.com/Azren/advice. That's free. You can just book half an hour with me. I'm happy to help you with whatever. I can answer any questions you have. Just give you a free class. Do whatever you want. Whatever you want to use the time for, we can use it for. My general rule of thumb is if people need help on a short-term basis, I don't charge for it. I don't charge for short-term help. Sometimes I might if I'm really busy and I don't have time and it's an inconvenience for me. But my general rule is if someone needs help on a short-term basis, I don't care and I'll help you for free. You don't need to pay me for it. And then if you need help more of a long-term basis, like if you're looking for, some long-term help, then I charge for it. Then I'll ask for payment, but not for short-term things. So if you're looking for like more long-term classes, I will charge for it. If you're looking for some short-term help, then by all means, I'm happy to help you out. And then of course, if you don't have If you don't have a budget for classes or anything like that, that's totally cool too. I organize free classes every single week for every language that my business teaches. So I want to make language learning accessible. I want to make money too. I need to run a profitable business, and I do run a profitable business. But at the same time, it's very important to me that if you want to learn and you don't have the money to learn, you're still able to learn with us, and we can still teach you. And that's really important to me, which is why we organize so many free classes every single week. I pay the teachers for it. It's out of my pocket. It's just something I do to help out. So anyway, so let's see. What other questions we have? I haven't looked at Facebook in a while, so let me go on. Oh, yes, classes can be one-on-one, but we also have group classes. Insane Humano. Yeah, so we have one-on-one classes and group classes. We have both. So, okay, let's go over to Facebook. Esteban Felix, what's the language that took you the longest to learn? Oh, that's a very good question. I don't know. Let me think about it. So maybe I'll walk you through every language because it's a hard question to answer, actually. French. I started learning French when I was 5 years old. I went to school in French. So it's hard to say how long it really took me to learn it. I don't really know. I don't know. But I'll tell you, like, it took me, so from the age of 5 to the age of 15 in French, all my schooling was in French. I did French in school, like everything was in French. But I still wasn't super, like I was strong in French, but I didn't feel 100% confident. Like, yeah, I'm good in French. So after 10 years of French schooling, I still didn't feel fully comfortable. Felt pretty comfortable, not fully comfortable. I think for you guys, like if you like if you had heard my French back in the day, you probably would have been like, oh yeah, you're really fluent, because people told me that, but I didn't feel super fluent. It probably took me 3 months in France in an immersion setting to feel like, now I've really got my French. Spanish took me about 4 years. 4 years of doing roughly 3 hours of Spanish a day. And I spent 2 months in Peru in an immersion setting. So 4 years, 3 hours a day, every day of the week, and 2 months immersion in Peru to be good at Spanish and feel pretty comfortable and pretty good at Spanish, right? That was that. And then probably another 2 to 3 more years after that to be really fluent in Spanish and really feel like I was like awesome. Mandarin I've been learning for 5 years, almost 6 years, but it's been a bit more sporadic, but I've been pretty consistent. So yeah, it's hard to say. I still learn new things in French and Spanish every day. And I'm really strong in those languages, but every day I learn something new. Every day I make a mistake. I'm like, oh yeah, I can't say it like that. Right. You don't say that. Just the other day, I learned how to say conditioner, hair conditioner in French. Never seen the word in my life. I couldn't believe it. I was like, what the heck? How do I not know that word? I couldn't believe it. Could not believe it. But yeah, didn't know how to say it. I just learned it 3 days ago. So, okay, let me see other questions that have come through. Nope, no other questions. So let's wrap it up. Thank you everybody for watching. Hope this was useful. See you guys next week, same time. So 12 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. That's the time we use here in Calgary. And I'll see you guys. See you guys in a week. Obviously sooner than that. If you're following my Instagram and Facebook and stuff, then I'll see you sooner. But all right, everyone. Bye-bye. Instagram, we'll say bye to you first. See you. There we go. Let's share to Instagram TV. Let's go over to see you, Facebook. Bye-bye. I saw a couple last questions on YouTube. Let me just answer those questions on YouTube. And then there we go. So do you divide it in a lot of times? Yeah, I do divide my time. I do divide it, I think, if that's what you're asking. I do divide my time among different languages. And how much would you study daily? Insane Humano, I probably just watch the first 6 minutes of the video. Basically, long story short, minimally like an hour, minimally like an hour a week. It's not ideal, but you can do a lot of damage in an hour a week. You can improve with an hour a week. Better would be if you can figure out a little bit of time every day, 15, 20, 30 minutes, an hour, like some amount of time every day. The best would be if you can make language learning a part of your lifestyle. But again, I expand on that in the first 6-7 minutes of this video, so you can go watch that there. Okay, everyone. See you. Appreciate your time. Bye-bye.